things happened to change the debate in Australia about the carbon tax. First, it became really clear that it was very damaging to Australian living standards. It was raising electricity prices particularly, and it was raising the cost of basic household consumables. The second thing that really changed Australians' minds was the fact that it wasn't going to do anything for global climate change. The carbon tax introduced in Australia was not going to do anything to world temperatures because we were not going to be the leader. We weren't even being followed. The idea that Australia would be able to convince China and the United States to change their energy systems was obvious nonsense, and it became to be understood as obvious nonsense.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. So this piece is aimed at the biggest producer of what I consider propaganda in Canada, namely Catherine Mackenna, who claims to be the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. In other words, fake news. So I came across two pieces a while ago, but still feel they're very relevant. So I want to play them to counteract this person who spews out her lies every single day. Goebbels would be proud. Typical Saul Alinsky. Repeat lies often enough, and soon they become the truth. But here's the problem. There are places other than Canada that at present we Canadians get information. No, I don't mean the UK. Are you kidding? They are so brainwashed there. It could be communist China on this topic. And many others come to that. No, it's the USA. I'm going to give you two examples which Catherine Mackenna either doesn't want to admit they exist or just wants to be a camel with her head in the sand. In a democracy, there is room for disagreement, even compromise. However, if you listen and see the non-stop lies and the garbage spewed out by her and others in the federal Liberal government of Canada, and I have to say, of course, promoted non-stop by the so-called mainstream media, it's not surprising that Canadians believe this nonsense. If it's all you see or hear every single day, be it at home, work, school and recreation, you can't help but be polluted with this mind-numbing garbage. But try to resist, because help is on the way. Here are two pieces from Fox News. That's good. But the bad news is they've already been taken down. It's almost as though they don't want you to know what's being said outside of Canada. That couldn't be right, could it? Here they are.
The New York Times covered a shrinking glacier, but when that glacier began to grow, not a lot of coverage at all. Correspondent Doug McElway reports on the missing part of that story. Good evening, Doug.
Good evening, Brett. The Cambridge English Dictionary defines an error of omission as a mistake that consists of not doing something you should have done. Last January, the New York Times gave prominent coverage to the melting of Greenland's ice sheet, that it, quote, is melting at such an accelerated rate that it may be reaching a tipping point and could become a major factor in sea level rise around the world within 2 decades. The story showed sped-up video of the apparent melting. It said the scientific estimates, if anything, are too conservative. Fast forward to March 23rd. The Associated Press reported, big U-turn. Key melting Greenland glacier is growing again. It described how Greenland's Jakobshavn Glacier, the biggest in the northern hemisphere, is actually surprising scientists by growing. There was no mention of that turnaround in the New York Times. One skeptic says it's not definitive proof of anything except an error of omission.
Glaciers are receding and advancing all over the world. There are glaciers that are receding in Greenland, but there are glaciers that are advancing.
Malloy is fond of citing another headline from the AP in 1922 before predictions of man-made climate change. It reads, quote, Arctic Ocean getting warm, seals vanish, and icebergs melt. It is a reminder that other forces may be at work, such as sublimation, ice evaporates as quickly as water, or volcanic activity under the ice, or another powerful force, politics. Listen to two of the newest Democratic presidential hopefuls.
half measures just will not defeat climate change.
Come to Glacier Park soon, because the glaciers will be gone.
Unless they grow again. Brett?
Doug, thank you.
Well, it's one of the most memorable segments this show has ever run. We debated engineer and TV personality Bill Nye, falsely called the science guy, about global warming.
It's not an open question. It's a subtle question. Human activity is causing climate change.
To what degree?
To a degree that it's a very serious problem.
To what extent is human activity responsible for speeding that up? I mean, please be more precise.
If that's the number you want. Humans are causing it to happen catastrophically fast.
Shouldn't we be encouraging people to ask honest questions, which I am doing, and you don't seem to have the answers to those questions?
Okay, I got to disagree with you. I claim I do have the answers.
Okay.
He
had the answers, but he had no numbers at all. He had no facts whatsoever. For a science guy, there was no science. There was just a lot of yelling. But he's been rewarded for it. Shortly after that interview, Bill Nye got a Netflix show, which featured a song about sex. We couldn't air that here. But he's kept going. He's back with another warning about the planet. Here's Bill Nye, the falsely named science guy.
By the end of this century, if emissions keep rising, the average temperature on Earth could go up another 4 to 8 degrees. What I'm saying is the planet's on fire. There are a lot of things we could do to put it out. Are any of them free? No, of course not. Nothing's free, you idiots. Grow the up. You're not children anymore. I didn't mind explaining photosynthesis to you when you were 12, but you're adults now, and this is an actual crisis. Got it? Safety glasses off, mother.
Unlike Bill Nye, Judith Curry is actually a climatologist. She's also professor emeritus of atmospheric sciences at Georgia Tech and president of the Climate Forecast Applications Network. Professor Curry joins us today. Professor, thanks very much for coming on. So,
thanks, Tucker. It's always a pleasure.
Well, you are a person of science. You've devoted your life to science. When you see the video that we just played, which is how science is presented to television viewers, does that look like science or propaganda to you?
Propaganda, definitely. It's nonsensical alarmism, and it's scaring children. It's an issue of really very big concern to me.
And what is the issue of concern? The effect of this kind of propaganda or the underlying claims that he's making?
Well, the exaggerations and the vehemence and the profanity. I mean, there's a lot of it. That this is not sober, carefully reasoned scientific arguments. I mean, this is just nonsense, really.
So tell us how the sober climatologist views climate change as of right now, May 2019. How upset or not are you about climate change?
Well, there are reasons for concern. There are reasons to try to better understand it. Any predictions of warming in the 21st century beyond 3 or 4 degrees Fahrenheit are very difficult to justify, and there are reasons to think that it wouldn't even be that high. So, I mean, we don't really know how the climate of the 21st century will play out. There's a lot of things that are ignored in the climate model projections that we should also be looking at. And, I mean, we just don't really know. And there's a lot of overconfidence. And
so this looks like politics then to me. I mean, so the posture of science is exactly what you're displaying right now, which is, hedging, total honesty about what we know and what we don't know. I never hear anybody say there are things we don't know about the climate. Why? Why don't they admit that?
I think they're afraid that the will to act will be reduced if scientists are actually honest about what we don't know. Yeah. It's again, climate scientists are becoming politicians, and this is not a good thing for science.
No, it's not. It's scary. And so it's always nice to have you on the show. Again, an actual climatologist, just so we can show the contrast between people who do science and people who just pretend to. Judith Curry, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We are also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. And you can now hear a weekend review of our podcasts on WHBJ-DB, News Talk Radio. Join us and many others, and you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.